Well, hi everybody. Good morning. It's morning as I'm recording this on October 10th, 2022. Uh, it's a Monday morning, but I actually had scheduled a day off work. I was supposed to be on a family vacation, and due to circumstance, that just didn't happen. And I thought, I'm still going to give myself a 3-day weekend. I'm almost ashamed to admit that I didn't realize, I knew it was coming up here, I'd forgotten that October 10th was John Prine's birthday. He would have been 76 today. He was born October 10th, 1946 in Maywood, Illinois. I believe I talked about his upbringing and the similarities, that just the Midwestern stuff. It's hard to put a word on it, of the same similar backgrounds. He has a famous song, Grandpa was a carpenter. My grandpa was a carpenter. His dad was a tradesman. My dad was a tradesman. And then John was born in October. My grandpa was born in October. John passed away in April 2020. My grandpa passed away in April 2020. I'm going to slaughter this, but it was something to the effect. Bob Dylan said, Prine's songs are Midwest mind trips to the nth degree. And, Bob was from the upper Midwest, of course, up there in Minnesota. But there's a whole similar feel. You can see here, I'm wearing my John Prine Muhlenberg County t-shirt that I bought last year. Oh Boy Records was selling these to help flood relief victims, last year when the storms devastated Kentucky, including Muhlenberg, and a lot of John's kinfolk suffered from that. So, and I tell you too, when I wore the shirt this past spring, when we went to Nashville, I wore it just because I love John Prine. It gets you a lot of mileage down there. I said to my wife at the time, Prine is like the patron saint of this city. He's like St. John of Nashville. You go to Grimey's out there in East Nashville, and his is the face that's still the permanent mural on the wall out there, and for good reason. People saw the shirt and they were friendly. We ate at Arnold's, and I got the meat and three, and I got the meatloaf, and they said, oh, do you want the John Prine special? And it was, it had the extra sauce. It's not really gravy, it's like a tomato-based sauce, and that was probably the best meal of the whole trip, too, was Arnold's. And so, anywho, in celebration of John's birthday, I had not planned on doing any videos for a while just because of crazy life circumstance and trying to sell a house. And you can see behind me, I've started cleaning up. The man layer is not really the man layer anymore. A lot of things are put away. Of course, I've got coffee. This is the Fisherman's Blend by Cutter's Point from out there in Washington State. My brother-in-law is no longer my brother-in-law, so I doubt I'll get it for Christmas anymore. But thank him so much for turning me on to that great coffee now, buddy, and I order that here in town. So I thought, this is one I've wanted to do for a long time, and I never got around to, and I didn't think I was going to get to for a while. I want to rank John Prine's records. But then I whittled it down because he has a lot. I mean, he did have some big periods between albums, but there's still quite a body of work. I have every one of his solo albums. But I whittled it down to the top 7 because I don't want to put any of them down. I like them all. These ones I talk about I really like and or love. But there are some where it's like, okay, this is fine, but they're not stellar. They're good. There's not a bad John Prine record. There just isn't. He never put out substandard work. But I like more than others. And so this rating, as I say with all of my ratings, is very subjective. It is both on the quality and the strength of the music, as well as what touches me here and up here. And so your rating might be completely opposite. You might have the same 7 records, but they might be in backwards order. And who cares? The important thing is that John Prine was one of the most gifted, intelligent, empathetic, humane songwriters, humorists, that we've ever seen. And so even though John is not with us in body anymore. And I talk about him like I never met the guy. I never had the chance to even see him in concert, but his music inspires that sort of relationship with fans that you got to know him a bit through his music, and I really should be referring to him as, again, St. John of Nashville or Mr. Prine. But anyway, I'm also going to touch on his live albums afterward. So let's get kind of right into it. I have all of the top 7, except for one, on vinyl. And this one was released on vinyl in the last year or two, so I've neglected to get it, and I feel ashamed. But number 7, The Missing Years. This was kind of his comeback album, so to speak, but yet, he never went away. But Howie Epstein of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers produced this. This is from 1991. This is a tour de force of an album. It's 14 songs, very much of the CD era. I wonder if it would have been 9 or 10 if it was a vinyl era. But there's no fluff here. Every song is great, but the highlights for me are the opening song, Picture Show. The Sins of Memphesto is just brilliantly written. It's a big old goofy world. Daddy's Little Pumpkin is just a sweet song. Great Rain, I love that one. Way back then, You Got Gold, which the festival celebrating John's life is been happening in Nashville right now as I do this. Everything is cool, and then just the satirical humor brilliance of Jesus the Missing Years, telling maybe a fictitious, but there might be some truth to the missing years of Jesus. Of course, John was a very spiritual person. I don't know about his, as far as how he felt about church, but he sort of fills in the gaps in a very humorous way. So that's number 7. Number 6, and this was just put out as a re-release. This is from 1986. This was his second full-length Oh Boy Records release. So I just got the re-release on vinyl. I've had the CD for a while. German Afternoons. I feel bad. I don't really understand the cover. I'm sure somebody's going to explain to me and make me feel stupid afterward. But the opening track, Lulu Walls, is just hilarious. This is, by the way, more of a country record. This is not a folk record. This is very much a country record. But the good thing is it doesn't sound like all the other pop country of the mid-'80s. This is a John Prine country record. Speed of the Sound of Loneliness, I love. Sailing Around. I miss the song I'm Out of Love. When I'm out of love, I'm out of you. I mean, I laughed my ass off when I listened to that this morning. I thought, man, the double entendre there. Linda Goes to Mars, which talk about in a little bit here with a story that many of you probably know, and I won't get all the details right, but I'll get the gist of it, and I'll encourage you to look it up. I Just Want to Dance with You, They'll Never Take Your Love From Me, and I'm skipping over some songs for the sake of time. And a really, really cool remake of his classic song Paradise with a fiddle and mandolin. And Sam Bush is on this record, and a bunch of other great hillbilly and bluegrass players, closes out the record. And it's just, it's fantastic. It's one of those where when I first got it, I went, I like it. But the more I've listened to it, it's risen very much. So now we get to top 5, and boy, we're really talking great stuff here. And so this is the 2 LP remaster from last year. Fair and Square. John had not put an album of original music out in quite some time to this point. And so I had the CD when it came out in 2005. Really liked it. I was just getting into his music at the time. And so at the time there were critics who were saying, well, it's not like his old stuff. Nothing is going to be like those early masterpieces. But the fact that this is also a masterpiece and the songs are so good on here. Some of them are a little happier for me these days than I would like. Glory of True Love, Crazy as a Loon. Long Monday is a great introspective song. again, I'm not going to touch on every one here, but Some Humans Ain't Human is a look at the state of America in the mid 2000s. Really poignant for the time. On the vinyl record here, side C opens up with one of the rare covers that John did. He covers Clay Pigeons by Blaze Foley. Maybe the highlight of the album for me. It's, even though it's not one of John's songs, he makes it his own. And that says something about Blaze too, where for somebody to cover his songs, for somebody of John's caliber to cover those songs is incredible. So then there were some bonus tracks, a couple that got released on the CD, The Other Side of Town and Safety Joe. But then there are 4 bonus tracks, I won't go through them all, that had originally just been part of a digital release and are now on side D of the record. So anyway, number 5, Fair and Square, from 2005. Number 4, some people might rank this a little higher, but it's in my top 5, so, you'll live with it. And that's Bruised Orange, 1978. Kind of a fun picture there of John entertaining his army buddies. So this one, he had left, he had left Atlantic Records and was now on Asylum Records at this point. So I had to look up, I've got the box sets up there from Record Store Day a couple of years ago that all these came in together. So it opens with Fish and Whistle, which he tells a story on a live album that I'll talk about, where he said he's making this record, and they said, well, you have to have another song. And he said, no, I don't. And they said, yeah, you do. And so he wrote 3 unrelated verses to an unrelated chorus, and it ended up, he said his goal was to write the shittiest song you've ever heard, and he said after about 300 times of singing it, he came to like it. So anyway, Fish and Whistle, If You Don't Want My Love is a beautiful ballad. That's the Way the World Goes Round. That's one of John's classics. The title track, Bruised Orange, Chain of Sorrow, I have spent so many nights with, good and bad, over the years. Just, I can't even count, You can raise up your hands, get mad and get madder. You can, See, I'm going to have to pull out the lyrics because I just screwed it up. And if I screw up John Prine while I do this, you can gaze out the window, get mad and get madder, throw your hands in the air, say, what does it matter? But it don't do no good to get angry, so help me, I know. And those words are like a mantra to all of us. They could be, so, and then the second side is almost just as strong. Sabu Visits the Twin Cities, aw heck. I love Crooked Piece of Time, Iron Ore Betty, the hobo song. So, number 4, Bruised Orange. Great album. Number 3, some people might have this a little higher, as with that. Again, and you might. His final album, Tree of Forgiveness. He had surgery for cancer a couple of times, for smoking. His voice was not what it used to be, but yet there was a comfort. He used it effectively. It was a little grizzled. He sang in different keys, but yet unmistakably John Prine. And the humor is here. He hadn't made a record in 12 or 13 years, and his family booked him into the Omni Hotel next to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And they said, you're making an album. And he did. And it opens with Knocking on Your Screen Door, which is great. I Have Met My Love Today. One of the funniest songs he's ever written here, Egg and Daughter Night, Lincoln, Nebraska, 1967, in parentheses, Crazy Bone. One of the saddest songs I've ever heard, Summer's End. Caravan of Fools, The Lonesome Friends of Science, No Ordinary Blue, Boundless Love, God Only Knows, and ironically, his last song released while he was alive, When I Get to Heaven. And his wife had said when she saw those lyrics, she went, oh, she thought it was going to be a sad song, but it ended up, he's going to have a cocktail, vodka and ginger ale, he's going to smoke a cigarette that's 9 miles long, going to kiss that pretty girl on the tilt-a-whirl, and this old man is going to town. So it's not a sad song at all. It's a song of comfort and humor and fun, and it's everything you'd hope from a John Prine song. Now, there are really only two guesses for what 2 and 1 can be, I think, if, for a lot of John Prine fans, a lot of longtime fans. Um, Number two for me, and this is, I had I had the CD years ago, and it was one of those '80s CDs that, when they transferred from analog to digital, it sounded terrible, and I could not get into the sound of it was so bad I couldn't get into the record. And then, of course, you dig more into the songs, and you go, this is a brilliant record. And so it's number two only because it took me longer to get into, but once I did, 13 songs of sheer brilliance, the debut album from 1971 that last month celebrated its 51st anniversary. Of course, he'd been playing in Chicago for quite a while. He had all these songs in his pocket. Um, I'm just going to read the songs to you. Illegal Smile, Spanish Pipe Dream, Hello in There, Sam Stone, Paradise, Pretty Good, Your Flag Decal Won't Get You Into Heaven Anymore, Far From Me, Angel from Montgomery, Quiet Man, Donald and Lydia, 6 O'Clock News, Flashback Blues. Runs the gamut of human emotion. Of course, Sam Stone about a Vietnam veteran coming back, Paradise about his childhood home, or his family's childhood home in Paradise, Kentucky, in Muhlenberg County. Flag Decal Won't Get You Into Heaven Anymore. At the time there was this sort of blind patriotism, and that has come and gone so many times in this country, it's ridiculous. Angel from Montgomery wrote the empathetic song from a point of view of an old woman whose husband had run out on her. I mean, just it's a 10 out of 10 record. It's number two for me, but it's a 10 out of 10 record. Start here. This is it. John Prine, number two record, or first album, number two on my list, and number one then is Sweet Revenge. I think because I gravitated toward a lot of these songs first. The title track got a brutal electric guitar on it. It's great. It's sort of heavy. I got kicked off of Noah's Ark, turned my cheek to one kind remark. There was two of everything but one of me, and that's how the album starts. And then the incredibly humorous Please Don't Bury Me, Send My Mouth Way Down South, and the rest. Christmas in Prison, Dear Abby, Often Is a Word I Seldom Use. That's side one. Side two, Onomatopoeia, the one I mentioned before, Grandpa Was a Carpenter. The Accident, Things Could Be Worse. Mexican Home, where he talks about his father's passing. A Good Time. And then again, another rare cover, 9 Pound Hammer, the old Merle Travis song, and Steve Goodman plays on it with him. And anyway, so that's my top 7 studio records. I'm not going to touch a whole lot on the live records on each of them, but I am going to rank them. And this one is kind of hard because some of these came out, for example, for the tour that he was on, but a lot of them have been retroactive. And so I'm going to start. And here's the thing. I love every one of these. I love them, and I can put them on at any given time and be completely happy. So there's not a stinker here. Every one is great. So again, it's all subjective too. So I'm going to start. See, there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you look up a lot of the official discographies, you'll see that there are 5, but I'm going to add 2. Even though they were limited releases, I got them. They're official releases. You can buy them aftermarket. It's going to cost you, but they're worth finding out if you're a Prine fan. So, number 7, John Prine Live on Tour from the early 90s. Great record, great sound on this. Mostly from the early 90s, a little bit of, I think there's an 80s song back in here. But yeah, so he opens with Picture Show, Quit Hollering at Me, You Got Gold. This was, of course, from the Missing Years tour, most of it. Does some old classics on here, the late John Garfield Blues, Illegal Smile. Yeah, just a thoroughly likable album. I don't believe this one's on vinyl, hence the CD, but very much worth getting. Number 6, and this might be a little controversial just because it's considered such a classic in his canon, but John Prine Live. And some of it to me is just the production value of it. It's there's not a lot of oomph to this, and I've had the CD for years too, and I always thought it was missing something. And then even when I get the vinyl sounds better, but it's still not. The sound is not amazing. That said, it's two records of just fantastic performances from the late '80s. A lot of it solo guitar, some of it with a small band. Everything, Come Back to Us, Barbara Lewis, Harry Krishna Beauregard, Fish and Whistle, Blue Umbrella, Grandpa Was a Carpenter, Sabu Visits the Twin Cities Alone, Illegal Smile, Mexican Home, Sam Stone, Souvenirs, Donald and Lydia, That's the Way the World Goes Round, and look up the whole Happy Enchilada song. And that comes from That's the Way the World Goes Round on here. It's a very humorous story, well worth checking out. So that's number 6. Number 5, I am going to go with, it's a toss between these two. So I'm just going to pick one, and that is The Singing Mailman Delivers. And so this is both a live album and a live in the studio. This is taken from before John's first album was even out. So the studio performance, August 1970, was at a radio studio in Chicago, and it has a lot of the songs that would be on the first album. It's almost like for lack of a better term, a demo. So this is the genesis of the first record, and then the live performance from November 1970, Flashback Blues, Your Flag Decal, Great Compromise, which would be on a later album, Hank Williams' cover of Hey Good Lookin' Jambalaya on the Bayou, Quiet Man Paradise, Great Society Conflict Veterans Blues, which would become Sam Stone, Spanish Pipe Dream. This is a great archival document to have. So that's number 5. Number 4, I'm going to go with another archival release, John Prine, September 1978, done for TV program in Chicago. Recorded, at Park West, Chicago, Illinois, September 23rd, 1978. So this is on the Bruised Orange tour. This is a full electric band, and it's a rock and roll album. It really is. Often is a word I seldom use. Angel from Montgomery, Crooked Piece of Time, I Had a Dream, Try to Find Another Man, Pretty Good, Iron Ore Betty, Please Don't Bury Me, Elvis song Treat Me Nice, and just a killer rockin' version of Sweet Revenge to close out the album. So there you go. At number 4 is John Prine, September 78. Great album, whole lot of fun. Number 3 came out in 2010, but this is essentially the Fair and Square live album, and this is in person and on stage, and this is with his small band, and this was recorded in a lot of theaters. This is when John's career really started back on its upward trajectory that would lead to Tree of Forgiveness. For a long time, he had just kind of a base of fans. It was a lot older. A lot of younger singer-songwriters started discovering him and spreading the gospel of John Prine. And so the audiences at this point finally started growing. And this live album is just a tour de force. It's 14 songs. Every one is perfect. His voice was not what it once was, but yet again, he used it very effectively. And so, In Spite of Ourselves with Iris DeMenta's on here. He sings Late John Garfield Blues with Sarah Watkins, Mexican Home with Josh Ritter, Angel from Montgomery, who, of course, Bonnie Raitt had the big hit with, but Emmy Lou sings on it here with him, Unwed Fathers with Iris DeMenta as well, Paradise featuring Gillian Welch and members of his band. Also, She Is My Everything, great love song for his wife Fiona. Bottomless Lake, Bear Creek Blues, which was an old Carter family song. Saddle in the Rain, which came from the Common Sense record, which I was never huge on because it had sort of this funky sound, is a minor key masterpiece here. But yeah, and a bunch of other great songs on here. So again, every one of these is well worth checking out. So number 2, this one was supposed to be released last year, came out this year, and put out as in conjunction between Oh Boy Records and the Newport Festival Foundation. And this was a charity record to help musicians who had been affected by the pandemic. John's 2017 performance when he closed out the Newport Folk Festival. You know, Justin Vernon, Jim James, Margot Price, Nathaniel Ratliff, Lucius, Roger Waters. Yes, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd sings Hello in there with him. Paradise closes out the with everybody from the festival singing background with him. This is where he tells the funny story about Fish and Whistle. It was so good to finally get a live album from Latter-day Prine, because this album's a tour de force. He's in great humor. He sounds fantastic. The guest artists add to rather than take away. Just the camaraderie here. If you can find a copy of this, and supposedly it was going to be re-released at one point to the masses. If it ever comes out, grab a copy. If you can find one now, my God, get it. This is just amazing. And then the number 1 live album, and it's sort of a cheat because it was a record store day release last year, but it sounds like it was originally recorded to be an official live album where they were going to take it, but then he left Atlantic Records, so this was December 1975, live at the other end, which used to be the bitter end. So it was the cafe, the coffee house that, you know, Bob Dylan and all those guys made famous in the 60s. John did a 3-night stand, and so it's a 4-album live set. And it catches John Prine at his absolute zenith. And I'm not even going to go over all of the track listing, but he covers almost everything from the first 4 records, plus some. The quality on this, the performances, the sound, everything, darn near perfect. And this encapsulates everything that was John Prine right here. So anyway, thank you so much. The video went on a little long, but not as long as I was worried about. So thank you for your kind attention. Please rank the albums for yourselves down below. Let me know what you think. Again, keep it civil. I always ask that. I've had to delete a couple comments over the last couple of years. People get really kind of rude. No trolls allowed. This is just a guy in his basement talking about music for fun and enjoying interacting with you guys too. So anyway, cheers. Happy birthday, John Prine. You got gold.